So I think we all agree that modern homesteading is a series of trials and experiments and just seeing what works best for you on your land. So today I want to share an absolute failure, a total train wreck, if you will, of what I thought was a clever idea utilizing some materials and turned out to be an absolute bust. And that is our pool pole breakdownable, if that's even a word, chicken roost. And you can see that it hasn't weathered very well. So quick backstory on this monstrosity is the boys, when they were younger, we had the typical above ground pool with the Walmart special type thing with the white poles and blue and all that jazz. So as those deteriorate, as they normally do, we ended up accumulating, had we gone through several of them, accumulating all these white pool poles. If you've watched the channel for a while, you've seen since building this about a year or two, year and a half, who knows? It could have been yesterday for all I know. Building these, that we've discovered that the pool poles work well for fence posts for our pig pasture. So these 8, there's 2, 3, 4. These 8 were being used for this already, so I didn't, of course, tear it down to cannibalize those for pasture poles. But now, as this has failed so miserably, then we're going to, we can use those there. So not a total waste. So several failures here. The first, of course, was taking this furring strip material and trying to bolt it to this pole with self-tapping screws. So, of course, the self-tapping screws went in fine. It was just the fact that everything was so thin. The wood was thin. The metal of the pole itself was thin. So things just started to come loose, especially as you had all these chickens accumulating on it. Along that same lines were the opportunity to attach the actual roost poles to this thin strip. It really didn't give a lot of wood for that screw to bite into, so you can see a lot of these screws have failed, and that's why the roost poles are laying on the ground. And of course the third big mistake, and I don't know what I was thinking when I did this, was just cutting fresh saplings for roost poles. So you take a green pole and allow 50 chickens to spread out across it, it's going to develop a smiley face. So the green ones, you can tell which ones are green, the ones with the smiley faces. And of course they failed pretty quickly as well, came down. There's only one, this is the only roost bar that's still active right now. So the chickens have, most of them are going to the B team. This is a secondary roost for all the ones that aren't man enough to be on the main roost. So they're low in the pecking order. So they end up over there. Well, then we introduce these latest reds in, and they've been roosting on top of the cage, which I need to get that out of here to use to move our next batch in. So we gotta do something. So the whole purpose in building a roost like this was to be something that was movable. And then once I put it together, I realized you're not moving it very easily without it falling apart. The plan was to be able to have a roost that I could move around to different spots in our greenhouse that we're in, because if we ever get to use this, hopefully next year, 2021, we'll get to use this to actually plant some plants in, then I want to have this manure spread out versus this huge chunk right here. So we're going to tear this down. We're going to repurpose our poles, of course, and we're going to build something a little more formidable, but something that's put together with screws so I can break it down and move it pretty easily, or have one of the boys help me just pick it up and move it to another spot. Probably won't be as big footprint-wise, because we really don't need that many. With the secondary roost, we only have about, we're probably going to be 60 chickens max. So if I've got 2 roost options here, then we should be fine with a smaller roost. So the name of the game today is repurposing. I've got all these cutoffs from my previous project for the farrowing barn. And as you can tell, with most things around here, I have a hard time throwing things away. Even when it comes to scrap pieces of wood, I just appreciate all the effort it took for that tree to grow to be able to produce this much wood. So just piling everything up and burning it just seems almost sacrilegious to me. But I also realize that a guy with a sawmill that's producing lumber constantly can't have everything piled up, right? So we'll go through and try to use up what we have left over. Our 2x6s and some of our 2x4s here are still good. That's why they're still ricked up and be used for future projects. But everything laying around here, we're going to try to cobble together something that's functional but doesn't necessarily have so much form. Again, this is a chicken coop build, so this is going to be rough, but it's something that hopefully will just serve the purpose we need. So one of y'all cracked me up the other day, made a comment that it's ironic that a guy with a sawmill and a wood shop has metal or plastic sawhorses. I had my metal sawhorses out here. It's like, you know, I guess I never really thought about it. Actually, I think both sets of sawhorses were gifts from my parents many, many years ago, so that's why I have them. I don't know if he expects me to use a wooden spoon all the time, a wooden toothbrush. I'm not quite sure how far woodworking goes in daily lives. Maybe my Flintstone car should be wooden with pedal driven. So this Roost style will be built it'll be a trestle style build, where we'll have 2 cross feet and then a trestle board spanning across to give it stability and to reduce racking. Of course, we'll have another one at the top that will double as a roost. But the idea, of course, is to have some weight to the base. Now, I don't want to make this too heavy that it's everything we can do to move it, but it needs to be heavy enough. We don't want it to be top heavy. I am imagining maybe 30 to 40 birds roosting on this at night. And if you think a typical chicken, egg-laying chicken, could be 4 to 5 pounds, that's 150 pounds, 4 or 5 feet off the ground. So we'll make sure the base is stable enough that it's not super top heavy and they jump all up on there and the whole thing tips over. That would be a bad deal. So we're going to start with some, it's an old poplar board. Actually, it's not old. I milled it for, what did I mill this for? Actually, you know, I don't, come to think of it, I don't think we're going to start with this board because I think this is my, we are not going to start with this board because I just realized this is the board, this is the piece out of my corral wall that I took out for the creep area, and I'm going to want to put that back. So we're going to save this guy. We're going to lean it up against the wall here, so it'll be curved like a smiley face in a couple days. It'll never fit back in place. Let's find another baseboard, shall we? So we're going to start with this poplar 2x6 that I believe I don't need for any project, but come 2 weeks you'll see me complaining about it. So we're going to start there to be our trestle foot. So let's try that. So we're just going to take this board and split it in twain, and that'll be our 2 main feet support there. You may be wondering, seeing the stack of tires behind me there and wondering what that's all about. I've got a buddy that has a tire shop here locally and does a really, really good job mounting and balancing. Very, very inexpensive. I mean, really inexpensive to mount and balance. So all the trailer tires we've been swapping out this year, I've taken those to him. The only downside is he doesn't keep the tires. You have to take the old tires back. That's your responsibility. So I guess maybe in the grand scheme of things, it isn't that great a deal if I've got to dispose of the tires. But it's no big deal. I'll just put them in the truck, take them somewhere, some hill, and just roll them over the hill. That's a joke, obviously. I'm not going to do that. Clearly, I'm just going to pile them up and set them on fire. So. I'm just going to take another one of my 2x6s here. This one's got a ton of wane on it. And that'll be our verticals on both sides. We'll just cut this in twain as well, including the wane. Well, if you notice all the black, that is indeed black mold. That's from ricking up, or that's from stacking these 2x6s green, just these 2. The rest of them have all been ricked up. They've got the sticker boards between them. But stacking these up green and letting the rain and the moisture and all that just stay in between them so the black mold really gets rocking on that. So that's yet another reason why you want to rick those boards so they dry out well and, of course, don't stain from mold. If this was a woodworking board, I'd be in big trouble because that's black mold stain actually penetrates into the wood a certain ways. But since it's going to go in the chicken coop, it's dry, it's very dusty in there, the black mold will be eradicated pretty quickly. Come on. Come on, chicken. Come on, chicken. Come on, chicken. Go that way. Go the other way. Go. Yes. Okay, so we got our roost in place. It's pretty doggone sturdy, and I think it'll do the trick. What I've got now are just these cutoffs from the mill, which are actually kind of like rick boards. That's what I would use them for. But I'm going to install them here as roost poles, and we'll just see how they do. See if they flex so much or not. And we'll cut them to length. Obviously, we don't want springboard chickens out on the end, so we'll cut them to a length that's more appropriate. You may be wondering why, or maybe not. Maybe you're clearly aware of why the staggered. Why not just make one singular post with a bunch of rungs of a ladder type roost, one right underneath the other? And clearly, as the chickens establish their pecking order, the dominant ones are on top, and you don't want them pooping down the backs of everyone else. So it helps keep chicken crap from obviously rolling downhill. So low man on the totem pole really doesn't have to eat a lot of poop. Having the stagger, it spreads it out a little. So that's what we'll continue to engage that. Those are 24, 36, and 48 inch long boards to go out wider. So we'll have to watch. It'll probably take a couple days for them to acclimate to it, especially in a new location. Well, this is just another very basic project, but one that was needed here on the farm, and hopefully the chickens will appreciate it. I can move that actually by myself by just getting under it with my back and lifting it up, and I can move it around here in different spots. Obviously, with somebody's help, I can move it around in here without any problems. And if I needed to break it down and get it out, then of course just take the two spanner boards out and the actual roost bars, take those out. That's why I put everything together with screws, so I could move it out without any problems. So I think I may just hang here and enjoy some chicken time for a little bit. Appreciate everybody watching. Take care.